Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast. Happy holidays, and these are 10 Japanese films from the 1950s that you should watch. Let's do it. The Ghost of Yotsuya, 1959. This is a horror film. This is probably the most popular Japanese ghost story of all time. It was originally a stage play that first appeared in the year 1825, but it has been adapted a lot during the past 200 years. In fact, there were at least 20 film adaptations and or remakes that predate this movie. Unfortunately, most of those were likely destroyed or lost during World War II, but I did recommend Keizuke Kinoshita's version from 1949 earlier in this playlist. In any case, this version from 1959 is probably the most popular film version that exists. This is a traditional ghost story about an overly ambitious samurai and the hauntings he experiences. At first, one sympathizes with the samurai's actions, but within about 20 minutes it becomes obvious that he's a dishonest jerk. Much of the first half is spent developing the antagonists and conflicts, while the second half turns to the supernatural. The execution is very good at eliciting emotion from the viewer, and the horror sequences are stylishly executed. There are also some beautiful shots to behold. This was directed by Nobuo Nakagawa. Ugetsu, 1953. This is a drama. Director Kenji Mitsuguchi tells the heart-moving tale that is essentially about the short-lived nature of human life. Despite the conflict raging around them, a potter and a farmer, two peasants obsessed with success and prestige, journey to the city, seeking wealth and glory. But their blind ambition ultimately takes its toll on the families they left behind. Now, although this movie takes place during a Japanese civil war in the 16th century, it provides an analogy for both World War II Japan and countries of the present day. A classic scene involves a one-shot take of the main character walking through his empty house near the end of the film. This is the first Japanese film I ever saw that was made before 1960. And it was a very good introduction to classic cinema from that country. Tokyo Story, 1953. This is a drama. Director Yasujiro Ozu contributes this film about an elderly couple who visit their children in Tokyo. The camera work is very unique, using waist-high shots almost exclusively. One of the trademarks of this director, actually. The acting is well done all around, emphasizing a sense of realism and authenticity. But the show is stolen by Setsuko Hara, playing the daughter-in-law Noriko, who provides the selflessness that is contrasted with the selfishness of the blood relatives. With the contrasting concepts here, basically of self-centeredness and altruism kept in mind, this movie successfully builds upon those concepts throughout the entire runtime. I mean, this is arguably the single best title in Ozu's entire filmography, and that's saying something. Sound of the Mountain, 1954. This is a drama. Adapted from a novel by Yasunari Kawabata, the first Japanese author to be awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature. This film, Sound of the Mountain, typifies Mikito Narusei's preferred genre of shomengeki, or films about the daily lives of ordinary people. Now, this is set in the ancient seaside town of Kamakura. This film depicts the increasingly close relationship between a childless young woman, played by Setsuko Hara, and her father-in-law. Now, Narusei does a great job in using subtlety to show the suffering and torment of the lead protagonist. The dialogue is meaningful, the acting is exceptional, and the conflict is always gripping. Desperado Outpost, 1959. This is a war drama. Now, set during World War II, a man poses as a war correspondent and investigates his brother's death while venturing to an outpost in northern China. This film was directed by one of the most underappreciated Japanese directors, in my opinion, Kihachi Okamoto. I'm a big fan of this guy, and Desperado Outpost is an early entry in his filmography that represents a high-quality drama mystery with a feel of a western at times, actually. Okamoto regular Makoto Sato stars and turns in a charming performance as usual. As an added bonus, one of the bad guys gets a cool death scene near the end, and the final battle is entertaining. Seven Samurai, 1954. This is a drama action flick. This is certainly one of the most well-known and critically acclaimed Japanese films of all time, and there's a reason for that. It's awesome. Akira Kurosawa directs this story about a group of samurai who protect a village from a group of bandits. The first few hours mostly build character development, while the final hour focuses on the actual defending of the village. The strategies employed by the samurai are interesting, and despite the fact that this film lasts 3.5 hours, it does a very good job at holding the viewer's attention throughout. This is easily my favorite film from this director, and it's a must-watch for everyone. Ballad of Narayama, 1958. This is a drama. In kabuki-like style, the film tells the story of a remote mountain village where the scarcity of food leads to a voluntary but socially enforced policy in which relatives carry 70-year-old family members up Narayama Mountain to die. Now, most of the narration is in song form, but there is still a lot of normal dialogue between the characters as well. Now, camera work and visual style are excellent, using a mix of interior shots and outdoor locations. Lighting is also very nice here and atmospheric. There is lots of cultural value here as well, especially in terms of the plentiful music and presentation. I actually prefer this adaptation by Keisuke Kinoshita over the more popular version by Shohei Imamura that was released in 1983. Gate of Hell, 1953. This is a drama. Set in the 12th century, a samurai pursues a married lady-in-waiting and won't take no for an answer. Now, this film is known for its use of color and visual spectacle, and it is certainly impressive in that regard, even today. But it also has an engaging conflict, well-developed characters, and a good story. I've read that this is the first Japanese color film to be released outside of Japan, and it also won the grand prize at the 1954 Cannes Film Festival and received special recognition from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. So this is really good stuff by director Teinosuke Kinugasa. The Human Condition. Now, this is a trilogy here that I'm referring to. The first film was made in 1959, the last in 1961. This is an epic war drama. Masaki Kobayashi directs this massive 9+ hour trilogy. Now, the first film is set during World War II, of course. An idealistic labor supervisor at a POW camp seeks to humanize the brutal conditions, as well as increase production of the ore mines. Now, there are two primary conflicts here in this first film. You have the philosophical differences between the protagonist and his superiors, and then you have the mistrust between the protagonist and the Chinese prisoners that he's attempting to help. And part 2 and 3 continue this storyline, but they involve different events and elements. Now, the conflicts are really what drive this trilogy and keep things engaging from start to finish. The Japanese come off looking quite badly in this, ironically, despite the fact that it's a Japanese production. Lots of arrogant officers within the military ranks, things like that. Some of the set locations are very nice. The acting is quality. Some of the military battles are good, and there's lots of suspense. So these films are undeniably effective at executing their themes, which is why many fans of classic Japanese film consider them to be required viewing. A Bloody Spear on Mount Fuji, 1955. This is a drama with a little action. This is about a pilgrimage to the titular landmark by a samurai who is prone to violent drunken binges, and his two dim-witted warrior servants. Now, along the way, they befriend a little boy, a little girl, and a woman sold into prostitution. There's a nice blend of drama and humor that makes this one a crowd pleaser. The lengthy festival sequence is probably my favorite scene of the film, but the finale is one of the most effective portrayals of a scrappy fight that I've seen. Very good flick by Tomu Uchida. So there you have it. 10 Japanese films from the 1950s that you should watch. A few of these pretty obvious choices, right? I am attempting to recommend some lesser known films in this playlist, but some of the popular ones are so essential and so fantastic that I had to include them. Remember, this is not a top 10 list of Japanese films from the 1950s. I intentionally did not title this video that way for a reason. This is simply 10 Japanese films from the 1950s that you should watch. So if I were to make a top 200 list of Japanese films, I'm sure if anyone did, they would include a bunch of these movies on their list. But there's also a lot more films from the 1950s that could make a best of list as well. In fact, there were so many impressive Japanese films from the 1950s, I need to make a part 2 to this video. That's right. So my next video in this playlist will be titled 10 more Japanese movies from the 1950s that you should watch. So look out for that one in the next few weeks. And this will continue as a trend. Basically every decade going forward is going to have multiple parts. So the titles of the films I mentioned in this video are listed in the description box below. I'm not providing availability information in this playlist because most of the films are, I saw years ago, and availability has changed over time. Again, my usual method of checking availability is just going to Google. So seek out any of the films that seem interesting to you. I'm sure there should be some of these on the Criterion channel, YouTube, and other sources, both streaming and physical releases. So as always, I'll see you next time.